Lindsey Graham is one of the most powerful figures in American politics. He has shaped policies, influenced elections, and stood at the center of countless national debates. But while his political career is an open book, his personal life is entirely different. Unlike most high-profile politicians, there are no public records of a spouse, long-term partner, or even a consistent romantic relationship. His private world remains a mystery, fueling endless speculation. For years, people have asked the same questions. Why has he never married? Who has he dated? And, perhaps most intriguingly, where does he live and with whom? Despite decades in the spotlight, these details remain largely unknown. What is he hiding, and why does he keep his private life locked away from the public eye? But before we uncover where Graham lives today, let's first understand how his past shaped his choices. Lindsey Graham's life did not begin with privilege or power. Long before he walked the halls of Congress, he was just a boy from a small town in South Carolina, navigating a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. Born in Central, a quiet community where life revolved around hard work and family, Graham learned early that survival required resilience. His parents, Millie and Florence James Graham, owned a small pool hall and bar. It was not a glamorous upbringing. The place was smoky, filled with chatter, and always buzzing with activity. But for Lindsey, it was home. From a young age, he worked in the bar, serving customers and learning how to handle responsibility. The customers were a mix of working-class regulars, college students, and travelers passing through town. It was there, in that dimly lit establishment, that he first observed human nature. The ambitions, the struggles, and the unspoken stories people carried. He listened, he learned, but nothing could prepare him for the tragedy that would change his life forever. As a teenager, Graham experienced a heartbreak few could imagine. His mother, the anchor of the family, passed away from Hodgkin's lymphoma. The loss was devastating, but the blows didn't stop there. Shortly after, his father died of a heart attack. Just like that, both of his parents were gone. At only 21, Graham was left with a responsibility most young adults never face: raising his younger sister, Darlene. He was still in college, trying to build his future. But suddenly, he had to become a brother and a father figure. There was no safety net, no inheritance to fall back on. He had to make a choice: sink under the weight of grief or push forward. He chose the latter. Graham took legal guardianship of Darlene and worked tirelessly to provide for her. He finished his studies at the University of South Carolina, balancing academics with the pressures of raising a child. His world had taught him that showing vulnerability was a risk, and emotions could be a weakness. He built walls around himself, learning to survive without leaning on others. This period of his life shaped him in profound ways. It made him fiercely independent, self-reliant, and most notably, private. He had experienced firsthand how quickly life could take away the people he loved. Was that why he never married? Was his reluctance to form deep personal relationships a way to protect himself from future loss? Whatever the reason, his struggles fueled his ambition. He had conquered childhood hardships and emerged stronger. But his journey was just beginning. Despite hardships, Graham rose through the ranks in the military, where his path to power truly began. Lindsey Graham knew that survival required more than just hard work. It required strategy. After navigating the heartbreak of losing his parents and raising his sister, he sought a path that would provide both stability and purpose. The military was his answer. In 1982, he joined the United States Air Force as a Judge Advocate General, JAG officer. This decision would set the stage for his entire career. Graham quickly made an impression. His legal skills, sharp thinking, and ability to navigate complex military cases earned him recognition. He wasn't just another officer. He understood the law, the structure of power, and how to operate within it. His role as a prosecutor gave him first-hand experience in handling high-pressure situations, a skill that would later prove invaluable in Washington. Even after leaving active duty, Graham didn't step away from the military. He continued serving in the Air Force Reserve, a move that kept him connected to both the military establishment and national security issues. This strategic positioning strengthened his credibility, making him more than just another lawyer turned politician. He was a man who understood the weight of national defense. But Graham was not content with staying behind the scenes. He had his sights set on something bigger: politics. In 1992, he took his first major step, winning a seat in the South Carolina House of Representatives. It was a calculated move, a stepping stone to something greater. 4 years later, he won a seat in the US House of Representatives. He wasn't a household name yet, but he was making waves. His sharp questioning during the impeachment of President Bill Clinton put him in the national spotlight. Then came 2002. With longtime Senator Strom Thurmond retiring, Graham saw his opportunity. He launched a campaign for the US Senate, aligning himself with conservative values while also presenting himself as a voice of reason. The strategy worked. He won, securing a seat that would make him one of the most influential figures in American politics. Over the years, Graham became known for his ability to adapt. He was a close ally of Senator John McCain, taking strong stances on military intervention and foreign policy. But his political survival skills were unmatched. When the Republican Party shifted, so did he. His support for former President Donald Trump surprised many, but it was a move that kept him relevant in a changing political landscape. Through it all, one thing remained constant: his ability to navigate power structures while keeping his personal life out of public view. Unlike many of his colleagues, there were no high-profile relationships, no messy divorces, no scandals involving affairs. He was a bachelor, and that alone made him an anomaly in the world of politics. People noticed, and they started asking questions. Why was Lindsey Graham so private? Was it just his nature, or was there something more? As Graham's political power grew, so did the questions about his personal life. Lindsey Graham has spent decades in Washington, navigating the corridors of power with precision. He has forged alliances, battled political opponents, and remained a dominant force in American politics. But despite his public career, one part of his life has remained a mystery: his relationships. Unlike most high-profile politicians, he has never married, never been linked to a long-term partner, and has never had a public scandal involving romance. For someone in the public eye for so long, that is unusual, and people have noticed. Over the years, there have been whispers. Who, if anyone, has Graham ever been romantically involved with? There are only a handful of names ever associated with him: Debbie, Carol, and Sylvia. These brief relationships never gained much attention, and Graham himself has rarely spoken about them. When asked about his bachelor status, he often gives light-hearted answers. He once joked that if he had married, it would have been Debbie or Sylvia or Carol, but they all wanted to be married and I didn't. But is it really that simple? In politics, the personal lives of public figures are often scrutinized. Marriage and family have long been considered part of the image of stability and relatability. Presidents, senators, and governors are expected to have a spouse by their side. Graham's lack of one has fueled speculation. Some believe he has simply dedicated himself entirely to his career, choosing power over personal attachments. Others, however, have drawn different conclusions. For years, there have been persistent rumors about his sexuality. In an era where many politicians have openly embraced their identities, Graham has remained silent on the subject. He has repeatedly denied the speculation, dismissing it as irrelevant or a political attack. When asked directly about the rumors, he responded, "I know it's gonna upset a lot of gay men that I'm not gay, but I'm not." Yet, the rumors persist. Why? Some believe it's because Graham's extreme secrecy fuels the mystery. Others point to his political stances, particularly his opposition to same-sex marriage and LGBTQ+ rights, as a reason why the topic keeps resurfacing. Critics argue that his policies contradict the speculation, while others believe his personal life should have no bearing on his public role. Even those who have worked closely with Graham admit they know little about his private world. He has colleagues, he has political allies, but no one seems to know who he spends his time with outside of work. Longtime friend and former Senator John McCain once described him as a fiercely loyal companion, but that loyalty was to his friends, not to a romantic partner. So, what is the truth? Is Graham simply a lifelong bachelor focused on politics? Or is there something he has deliberately kept hidden? His refusal to share details has only deepened the intrigue. But while his relationships may be unknown, one thing is certain: he has to live somewhere. With all this secrecy, what about where he lives today? Tucked away in the quiet town of Seneca, South Carolina, Lindsey Graham's home sits far from the chaos of Washington. It is a place of retreat, a space carefully chosen for its solitude. Unlike the grand estates of some politicians, his home is understated. It blends into the landscape, an unassuming structure nestled among trees, offering privacy from the outside world. Seneca itself is not a place most high-profile politicians would choose to settle. It is small, peaceful, and far removed from the power centers of the country. But for Graham, that seems to be the appeal. He was born and raised in South Carolina, and despite his decades in Washington, he has never truly left it behind. His home here reflects that connection. It is not a house meant for show, it is a place meant for comfort. From what is known, the house is modest but well maintained. It is not extravagant, nor does it scream political wealth. Those who have visited or seen glimpses of it describe a traditional Southern home. Welcoming, but with a strong sense of personal space. The property is surrounded by natural beauty, with rolling hills and a lake not far away. There are no towering gates and no ostentatious security measures, but make no mistake. This is a house designed for privacy. Graham has never made his home life a public affair. While some politicians showcase their personal spaces for interviews or campaign branding, he has kept his off-limits. This raises questions. Does he live alone? Or is there someone sharing this secluded space with him? If there is, he has done an exceptional job keeping it hidden. Neighbors describe him as polite but distant. He is seen around town, at local restaurants, occasionally engaging with the community, but never offering much about his personal life. Even in the place he calls home, he remains an enigma. So, why Seneca? Some believe it is his way of maintaining control over his private world. In Washington, he is surrounded by political maneuvering and constant scrutiny. Here, he can retreat, away from the questions that never seem to go away. Others speculate that Seneca represents something deeper, a reminder of where he came from, a place untouched by the weight of his public life. Whatever the reason, his home stands as a reflection of who he is, a man who has spent his life keeping personal matters locked away. But this isn't his only residence. There is another home, one much closer to power. But this isn't his only property. He also owns a residence in Washington, D.C. Lindsey Graham's presence in Washington is undeniable. For decades, he has maneuvered through the intricate world of politics, building alliances and maintaining his influence. But while the Senate chambers are where he exercises power, his private world in the Capitol remains largely unseen. His townhouse in Washington, D.C. stands as his second home, one strategically placed near the epicenter of American politics. Unlike his secluded residence in Seneca, South Carolina, his D.C. property serves a different purpose. It is not a retreat, but a base. Located in a prestigious part of the city, this townhouse offers easy access to Capitol Hill, allowing him to move seamlessly between his political duties and private quarters. The home is not designed for comfort in the way his Seneca residence is. Instead, it is functional, a space that accommodates the demands of his career. Details about the property itself are scarce, but public records indicate it is a valuable asset. Real estate in Washington, D.C. does not come cheap, especially in the neighborhoods where political figures reside. Graham's townhouse reflects his long-standing presence in the city. Over the years, its value has increased, cementing it as not just a residence, but also a smart investment. Who visits this townhouse? That is where things get interesting. Unlike some politicians who host regular social events or make their private spaces accessible to close allies, Graham's home life in D.C. is as guarded as it is in South Carolina. There are no widely known accounts of gatherings, no list of frequent visitors, and no stories of personal engagements. While his political colleagues see him in offices and meetings, few, if any, seem to know what happens behind the doors of his townhouse. This secrecy has led to speculation. Is this his true residence, or merely a place to stay while conducting business in Washington? Some argue that his Seneca home is where he feels most at ease, while others believe the townhouse is where he operates with the most freedom, away from the expectations of his home state. Then there is the bigger question, does he live alone here? Given that no family or known partner is associated with the property, his solitary lifestyle continues to raise eyebrows. Some have suggested that the townhouse might hold more significance than just a work residence. It is a place of privacy where he can exist beyond the public eye, but who, if anyone, shares that space with him? But there's another layer to this story, the rumors about his partner. Lindsey Graham has spent decades in the public eye, yet one of the biggest mysteries surrounding him remains unsolved. Who, if anyone, is his partner? Unlike most high-ranking politicians, he has never been married, never had a widely known romantic partner, and has never publicly shared details about his relationships. In a world where image and personal life often define public figures, his silence stands out. His bachelor status has fueled speculation for years. In a country where politicians often present themselves as family men, Graham is an exception. Some argue that he is simply a lifelong career politician who never prioritized marriage. Others believe there is something deeper behind his secrecy. One of the most talked about controversies tied to Graham's personal life is the Lady G incident. In 2020, adult film actor Sean Harding made headlines by claiming that multiple male escorts in Washington, D.C. had been hired by a high-profile senator, implying but never explicitly naming Graham. The nickname Lady G quickly spread across social media, becoming a trending topic. The controversy only added fuel to long-standing rumors about his sexuality. Graham has repeatedly denied any speculation about his personal life. When asked directly, he has always brushed it off, sometimes with humor and sometimes with frustration. "I know it's going to upset a lot of gay men that I'm not gay," he once said, dismissing the rumors outright. But despite his denials, the whispers have never gone away. Why? Some believe it is because of his strong political stance on LGBTQ+ issues. Graham has consistently opposed same-sex marriage, voted against protections for LGBTQ+ rights, and aligned himself with socially conservative policies. Critics argue that these positions make the rumors even more intriguing. Would someone so opposed to LGBTQ+ rights in policy be hiding something in their personal life? Others suggest that the speculation itself is unfair, a case of weaponizing personal life for political attacks. Yet, even among his colleagues, there is a sense of mystery. Unlike other politicians, who have ex-spouses, children, or public relationships, Graham has never had any of these. Even his close allies rarely comment on his private world. When asked why he never married, Graham has given different answers at different times. Sometimes he says his military career made it difficult. Other times he jokes that he simply never found the right person. But is that the full story? His carefully guarded personal life has left room for endless questions. Is he single by choice, or is there someone in the shadows, deliberately kept out of public view? Is his bachelor status simply a reflection of his dedication to politics, or is it part of something he refuses to share? So how does Graham handle all of this? Lindsey Graham has never been one to back down from political fights. He has defended Supreme Court nominees, taken strong stances on foreign policy, and navigated shifting alliances within the Republican Party. But when it comes to questions about his personal life, his approach is entirely different. He does not engage, he does not elaborate, he does not entertain speculation. Over the years, Graham has been asked about his bachelor status in interviews. His responses are carefully worded, often dismissive and sometimes laced with humor. "I guess I'm just hard to marry off," he once joked. In another interview, he suggested that if he had ever married, his wife would have had to be someone like Debbie, Sylvia, or Carol, nicknames that have surfaced over the years but never amounted to any serious relationship. For some, his avoidance of the topic is enough proof that there is nothing to uncover. To them, he is simply a man who never prioritized marriage and is more comfortable living alone. Others see his silence as something else, a deliberate attempt to keep a deeper truth from being exposed. Graham's handling of the Lady G controversy is a prime example of his media strategy. When the scandal emerged, he refused to acknowledge it directly. He did not threaten lawsuits, did not engage in a public battle over the claims, and did not take any steps to aggressively disprove them. Instead, he let the news cycle move on, knowing that speculation alone does not equate to evidence. It was a textbook example of political survival. When facing a controversy with no clear resolution, let time do the work. But has the speculation affected his career? Not in the way some might expect. Despite whispers about his personal life, Graham has continued to be a dominant force in the Senate. His political alliances have changed, but his ability to remain relevant has not. He shifted from being a vocal critic of Donald Trump to one of his closest allies, proving that his instincts for self-preservation in politics are unmatched. The bigger question remains, will he ever open up about his personal life? At 69 years old, Graham shows no signs of changing his approach. He has built an entire career on maintaining control, and that extends to what he chooses to reveal about himself. His lack of a public partner, his absence of family life, and his refusal to engage in personal controversies have become part of his political identity. So what does the future hold? Politically, he remains a significant player in the Republican Party. His ability to shift positions when necessary has kept him in the game, and despite controversies, he continues to wield influence. Personally, however, the mystery endures. Whether by choice or by necessity, Graham has ensured that his private world remains just that, private. Regardless of speculation, his career remains strong, but what does the future hold? Lindsey Graham has built a career on calculated moves, political survival, and an ability to remain relevant in an ever-changing landscape. He has held power for decades, navigating the complexities of Washington while keeping one part of his life almost entirely off-limits, his world. Unlike most of his peers, there is no spouse, no long-term partner, and no family in the spotlight. His homes in Seneca, South Carolina, and Washington, D.C. serve as reflections of his dual existence, one of retreat, the other of influence. For years, speculation about his private life has persisted. His lack of public relationships, the Lady G controversy, and the whispers about his sexuality have fueled endless debates. Yet Graham has never wavered in his approach. He avoids, deflects, and moves on, allowing rumors to fade without ever directly confronting them. In politics, perception is often as powerful as reality, and Graham has mastered the art of controlling what the public sees. His secrecy has only added to his intrigue. Few politicians remain so unreadable, so guarded about their personal choices. Whether his privacy is a matter of preference, protection, or something deeper, one thing is clear. His ability to withhold, control, and navigate controversy has helped him maintain his place in power. But in the end, does it even matter? Does it matter where he lives or with whom? Is his refusal to share details a sign of something hidden, or simply a reflection of a man who prefers solitude? The answers may never come, and perhaps that is exactly how Lindsey Graham wants it.